Welcome,
Lori.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Maggie. And thank you, Greater Wilmington Business Journal, for this opportunity to share with leaders in our region and those that are attending today's event. My business partner, Lynn Whitesell, is here with me. We make up Harris Whitesell Consulting and the leadership of our organization. And we are excited to share with you on the topic of leading through disruption. So today's topic is going to be specifically, we're going to talk about how COVID, the political nature, the social nature, has presented a host of challenges and opportunities for leaders to navigate. And Harris Whitesell's Consulting provides a compass, and we provide solutions for leaders in these times of disruption. And uncertain times can definitely test and unveil the quality of an organization's leadership. It is during these times of uncertainty and disruption that great leaders act, that they maximize, and they act with intention and purpose. And through their thoughts, their decisions, and their behaviors, leaders set the example for everyone in the organization and stand as the difference between thriving in a crisis or suffering irreparable damages. Turbulent environments often expand the boundaries of competitive advantage. Leaders who are effective in keeping their teams and employees aligned to the mission, the vision, and values often experience high levels of employee engagement, profitability, organizational health, and bottom line results. And so today, we're excited because we're going to be able to bring you and bring into this dialogue with you the 10 insights for leadership excellence during times of disruption. And those insights include communication, leader as coach, visionary and motivator roles, core values. It also includes positive intention and assumptions, maximizing excellence, right? Maximizing excellence, organization, knowing when to pivot, confidence, and of course, mental toughness. And so with that, I'm setting this table here for us to open and have this dialogue with our attendees on this panel. So welcome everyone, and let's go ahead and get started. Do any of our panelists right now want to start with a question that's just surging in your mind right now that you want to bring to the table today? Alexandra, and it looks like Sierra and Greg. Would one of you have a question that you might have in regards to leaders in times of disruption? So, Lynn, let's go ahead and dig in a little bit to some of these topics. How's that?
Sounds good.
And I'm going to start with communication. So with communication, silence and resistance are interpreted as unengaged and misinformed. And it's essential for leaders to communicate and reinforce a clear perspective on what's happening in the moment each day and what it means for the organization. And so questions are your leaders communicating often, even when they don't have all the answers? And do your leaders demonstrate the poise and composure to reassure all your stakeholders and suppliers that the organization is in safe hands? So think about that. And Lynn, why don't you talk a little bit about leader as coach?
Okay, so leader as coach ties directly into communication. So we are all experiencing this pandemic at the same time. We're all, as leaders, we are leading through the experience as it's happening to us.
Like right now.
We just lost the Zoom, but we can still talk. I assume that we can be heard.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I think we've both lost the Zoom connection, but So leaders are leading through change as changes are happening to them. And the change has been happening at an extremely rapid pace. So as Lori is talking about, communication is vital. Is communicating what you know, when you know it, being very vulnerable and open in that and transparent in that communication, and coaching your employees, or coaching your fellow employees, or coaching your team members and teammates as you go along. So historically, people may have viewed a leader as an enforcer, or a leader as somebody to give me feedback on the negative past, or a leader as somebody to tell me what to do every day. And it's a different thinking approach to think of leader as coach, and for leaders to think of them as coach. And this is where we're moving even before COVID-19, not just as a nation, as a world. We're moving and shifting to leader as coach. And so to be a coach, you have to be positioning employees for success now and in the future. And less of your attention goes to the past, which may be a negative past. And so it's changing how we look at performance management. It's changing what leaders do on a daily basis. So it moves the focus from feedback about the past, which I can do nothing about, and coaching and giving feed forward about that positive future that we can influence now and for the future. So instead of saying, Sally, let's look at feedback on what you've done this year. It's, Sally, let's look at what you want to achieve this year, what the company needs for you to achieve this year. And let's think about positive things we can do differently, or stop doing, or add to what we're doing to get a more positive future. And it's totally a different approach. And the pandemic is really causing, it was rapidly occurring anyway, and now it's just an absolute necessity. It focuses on that positive future when you talk about leader as coach.
And Lynn, are there questions that they can ask themselves or their teams around leader as coach?
It sure is. It's around, hey, it's the next generation of leaders stepping up. What are you doing about that? Are you helping them step up? Who is choosing to lead in these uncertain times? Leaders don't always have a management title. Leaders can be found anywhere in the organization. Anybody that has influence on others, that's a leader. Are they choosing to step up and lead? And how are you acknowledging that? And how are you capitalizing on that? Is there untapped hidden potential with employees you didn't know existed? Are you looking for that? Because I promise you that's happening. Are you looking for it? Are you seeing what they're doing right and determining, using appreciative inquiry, to use a technical term, but what are they doing? And how can you utilize what they're doing and put it on steroids so that others are doing it as well? Is the current leadership asking for help across the organization? Is the culture of your organization one that allows people to lead without authority? And culture change is happening now. Is it happening to you, or are you leading the culture change of your organization? Leader as coach.
Thanks, Lynn, for sharing that. And next, we're going to talk about core values. And so with core values, organization's mission, their culture, and values are put to the test in times of disruption. And great leaders communicate and amplify the mission to reassure and galvanize those around them. They identify leaders within the organization who carry the culture and set visible examples by reinforcing the culture and values that guide the organization through these difficult periods. They're more than a cheerleader, and they hold each other accountable and consistently convey their thoughts and words and deeds that the organization upholds through their values. And this helps them navigate that excellence through those short-term challenges that they have. And so it's really important as leaders to begin to have some of those thoughts, those moments where you sit back and you really think about, do the leaders in the organization know which aspects of your culture will inspire people and motivate them to overcome some of these difficult situations? And in that situation, is there is there a motto? Is there something that you guys can develop, a statement that you can develop together that will help motivate and keep that inspiration alive? And can you identify the leaders who will carry the change and transition needed to get positive and lasting results? So again, who are those leaders within your organization that are already demonstrating the behaviors that you need to lift up others and to motivate and influence others to keep the momentum moving and the productivity and engagement successful for you? And are those leaders able to maximize the talent throughout the organization? And how are your leaders communicating the importance of your organization's culture and values? You know, are they communicating daily, and are they transparent, and are they having those difficult conversations that sometimes are needed within the organization to bring in the diversity and inclusion of those ideas and thoughts and areas of expertise? So some of these things really drive and help keeping those core values alive and aligned so that you can maximize success. And next, we're going to talk about visionary and motivator role. And Lynn, why don't you go ahead and take that?
Okay, I sure will. Key thing that a leader has to do of any organization is set that vision for that positive future. So there's a lot of thought that goes into that, but the vision has to be so crystal clear that it can be communicated in a way that employees really grasp it. They really get it. Here's the vision for this company that I work for. Here's the culture that we have that supports this vision. And here's the trust that's been given to me to help this vision happen. And we talk about motivating employees, and survey after survey tells us that what employees want from an organization to be motivated is for there to be a development culture, for them to be trusted and be trustworthy, and for the company to have a development culture where they know that they have room to grow and are going to grow within the company, and that leaders are going to delegate appropriately. And leaders aren't just delegating tasks that they don't want to do anymore. Leaders will delegate tasks that they know will help others grow, and they'll learn something and be able to grow in their knowledge and skills and grow in their careers. So it's a very motivating thing. It's very demotivating for employees. And again, worldwide surveys tell us that this is hugely demotivating for employees to not feel trusted, number one, and to not be developed, number two. So setting that clear vision, creating that development culture that supports that vision, training and engaging and developing your employees and trusting them, not just giving them the work to do, but trusting them for the results. So great leaders have the ability to devote and delegate the appropriate resources. You have to get rid of things that are going to be in the way. So a great leader gets rid of obstacles, and they provide resources. Those resources may be tangible things like machines or products or services, or the resources could also and are often development and skill building and that kind of thing. But those have to be totally focused on the vision and the strategy of the company. And these leaders don't hesitate to make a hard decision when they need to. And they're courageous in preserving the investments that are essential to the sustainability of the organization. And strong leaders are guided by and they have a clear focus and a clear view to what needs to be done to preserve that strategic direction. And to preserve the strategic direction, they need to know what it is, and then absolutely preserve it. So leaders have to balance short-term tactical decisions with long-term goals of the company to make sure the goals and strategies and the vision are met. They use data to do this. They use gut feeling, but gut feeling alone, and your logic has to be feelings and data to make decision. And a lot of leaders want to leave out the data component. And a good other question when you're thinking about vision, being a visionary and a motivator as a leader, are your leaders considering short-term and long-term opportunities? These turbulent times like the pandemic that we're currently in create certainly these both short-term and long-term opportunities. And there are risks to be managed. And what is the considerations of risk versus benefit? And are your leaders so risk averse that they're frozen? Or are they risk accepting so long as the risk and the benefit outweighs the risk? And how do you lead in times of uncertainty, again, when you're going through the changes yourself at the same time you're leading through changes?
So, we've spoke about communication, leader as coach, and we've also spoken about visionary and motivator and core values. So I'm curious from the audience right now with those 4 areas, does one of those stand out? And if so, can you type it in the chat? Do any one of those initial 4 areas, communication, leader as coach, visionary and motivator, and core values. So in your work environment where you lead, do any of these 4, are they relevant right now for you in your organization?
Looks like we have a shy audience.
I know. This is a roundtable, everyone, so you feel free to dialogue with us, and we're more than happy to open up and have this. And so I'm going to move forward right now, and we're going to give you other chances to chime in. And Lynn, I think it's really important, the next piece to talk about is positive intentions and assumptions. So why don't you jump into that conversation, because this is a powerful leader tool and competency that we can use.
It truly is. Our personalities, everybody is, has their basic personality type, and some folks see the world and see the pitfalls and obstacles to overcome and view the world and the environment around them from that standpoint. Others, the other half, see the positivity, the things that the environment has to offer. And so it's easier for those, and neither one is good nor bad. We're all different, which is great. Let's celebrate differences. If you are coming from a place of positivity and the great things that the environment is going to bring your way, it's easier for you to assume positive intent. If your personality type is where you see the obstacles and the things to overcome, which we certainly need both types on all of our teams, then it's going to be harder. But what we mean here is in your interactions with people, are you assuming positive intent? Are you assuming they're coming from a great place? Are you assuming that their intention is positive? Are you assuming, or are you wondering, what do they really mean here? What are they going after? What are they trying to get? What kind of obstacles are they throwing up for me? What are the pitfalls? Change the way you're thinking and the way you're viewing others, your environment, as more of the positive intent of others, and trust in that positive intent. What it really changes is everything. It changes how you're hearing people, because you can hear the same. You ever been in a situation where somebody said something and you talk to somebody afterwards and it's like you heard 2 completely different things? Assuming a positive intent, you hear things in a more positive manner. You react in a more positive manner. You're not wondering what ulterior motives are, what the politics of a situation may be. And it changes your outcomes, the outcomes for the better. Not to be confused with being a Pollyanna and only seeing the positives and only assuming, but it's going in trusting that positive intent is there until proven otherwise. And once proven otherwise, you have to, take a different tactic. So, what is your communication intelligence like? What kind of logic do you use? What is your primary communication style? What are your thoughts when you're communicating? And so I was moderating a panel for the UNCW Alumni Association, which I'm chairing this year. But I was moderating a panel, and one of the questions was, what is something you wish somebody had told you earlier in your career? What do you wish somebody had told you? And I said, this is my mantra. This is what I live by. And it is really about assuming positive intent. So I'm happy to talk about that one.
And so I'm gonna stop us here again and give everybody the opportunity. You can either put it in the chat, or if you're interested, raise your hand. We're happy to open up the dialogue with you. But are there opportunities in your current work environment for you to truly utilize assuming positive intent? And if so, what kind of changes or what kind of reaction or outcomes or consequences do you think will happen from you assuming that positive intent? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Maggie, they're really quiet. We got crickets. All right, well, let's move on, and we're going to talk a little bit about maximizing excellence. So Lynn and I love this term, this phrase. You can see we even wear it on our shirts. It's kind of our company's mantra. It is our tag. And maximizing excellence, it truly does give an organization the ability to maximize their talents. Dig into this topic a little bit and let's share with them some insights.
Of maximizing excellence?
Yes.
Well, that's what the best leaders do. It's what the best companies do. It's what the best employees do. It's what the best of all of us do. We optimize, we maximize, we take something great and we make it better. We take something that's fantastic and we make it fantabulous, if that's a word. So it's about being a maximizer. So when you think about maximizing excellence, when you think about that, it equals to maximizing success. So for organizations, it equals to maximizing business success instead of minimizing. And so what do you do when you're maximizing success? You are building people up. You are building teams up. You're providing the resources that they need, including, again, as we talked about, the developmental resources, the behavioral resources, and the tactical resources that employees need to do their best. You're trusting them to do their best, which is going to absolutely maximize excellence. And I can't say enough about how you're developing people to do that. The best leaders actively look outward to employees and their suppliers and customers and their boards and their investors. They gather insights. They get the data that we talked about earlier and facts that are required for them to make better decision making. And they understand it's a two-way communication channel at all levels. Sometimes folks really like to talk and they don't like to listen. And maximizing excellence involves a lot of listening as well, and listening with assuming positive intent, to go back to that, and optimizing the insights that you get from all stakeholders. So getting all ideas on the table really leads to the collaboration and innovation. And innovation absolutely is about maximizing excellence and maximizing results. And you can't get innovation without collaboration, and you can't get collaboration without communication. So all of these things really link together. Do you have that culture of inclusiveness? Do you have that culture of building teams and building the skills of your teams to be really, really good at being a team? And we talked earlier today about what that would look like, about maximizing your teams. Are you encouraging ideas from everybody? People don't necessarily on a team, what we sometimes think is, hey, if it's not my idea or if it's not Susie's idea, she's not going to buy into it. And I can tell you that's not true. What people on teams really, really want is to have their idea out there, to have it considered by the team in the bigger decision that the team makes. And so even if that is not the choice that is ultimately selected, team members really feel engaged and they feel empowered when they know their idea was considered. And all of that goes into, you can't maximize excellence without maximizing people, without maximizing leadership, and without maximizing teams. It cannot be done. As Pierre Nadeau said this morning, and I'll quote, it's all about people and it's all about trust. That is the beginning stages of maximizing excellence.
Wonderful. And the next topic we're gonna dive into is organization, and this includes yourself, your teams, and the organization itself, the organizational health. So how do you create order from chaos, and how do you cut through the clutter? in any of that conflicting data or opinions. And as we've talked about, it's through maximizing those abilities and talents and wisdom and expertise and experience. It's through, having the assume positive intent. It's through ensuring the communication of our core values and motivating and influencing others and being that role model as a leader, as coach. And it's very, very important that we give space and we give room for developing and understanding the energy and the time commitments that we make each and every day to reach and achieve the goals that we set for ourselves personally, as a leader in the organization, for our teams, as well as the organization as a whole, to sustain the market competitiveness and stakeholder satisfaction. And to do that, great leaders, they cut through that clutter of the conflicting data and opinions, and they identify those areas that really truly need attention, and they allocate those resources that they know are the right resources. So it is about going all the way back to recruiting and onboarding and training and developing your team. And as Lynn mentioned, Pierre did mention today, the people matter. The people are the priority. And so leaders, they begin to quickly develop and communicate that point of view, and they look for that best path forward, providing that sense of direction to the organization that might otherwise keep you stuck or paralyze you or create that siloed impact that you have where you're not competitive any longer. And so you definitely want to dig in to identify, do your leaders have the ability to cope with the complexities of disruption and the complexities of the change at which the pace is currently occurring? And do your leaders have the flexibility and agility and resiliency to make those important decisions? And that requires a true understanding of cognition and understanding how it truly works when we're able to have all this information coming at us very, very fast, and being able to take the time necessary to validate and analyze and to challenge that information, even our own conflicting thoughts and sometimes our own opinions, and making sure that they're the right fit for the current time. And mostly communicating that. Being clear and making sure it aligns to the vision and the mission and the values. And two, making sure that we're doing the communication to the right people timely enough so that we're continuing to influence and motivate the right things at the right time to the right people. And can your leaders manage multiple stakeholders inside and outside the organization proactively? So you don't stop the networking, even though the normal networking pathways have challenged us and they've changed, but we still have the ability to network. So it's going back to what we know internally and utilizing those skill sets that we've got to be able to get ourselves organized and focused back on that vision in spite of the disruption and the times that we're in. And so before we move to the next one, which we're going to talk about pivoting, Lynn's going to dive into that. I'm curious, how many of you right now are feeling that there's a little bit of clutter and there's a little bit of confusion and you don't have a lot of clarity? Do any of you guys want to share that are out there attending today? Do you have any questions about this? I'm just checking for clarity, you guys. All right, well, we're going to keep moving through this, and then hopefully by the time we get done, you guys will have some questions for us. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat or raise your hand. We're happy to open this up and dialogue with you. Again, this is a free forum, and we're here to help, and we're here to provide insights. So Lynn, why don't you talk about knowing when to pivot?
Okay. we're talking about pivoting. So great leaders really understand that what got you here won't get you there. Book, if you haven't read it, it's by top leadership guru in all the world. His name is Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. This is his #1 bestseller. He has 30 or more. This is #1 of all of them. And the title of the book is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And I agree, Andrea, it is a fantastic book. And so much comes out of that. In coaching leaders, which we do a lot of, and looking at talent, and triggers too. Yep, absolutely, Andrea. Triggers is another great book, and it leads into the 6 questions that leaders should be asking themselves and whatnot. We're true followers of Marshall Goldsmith, and we're proud to be among his coaches, the Marshall Goldsmith coaches. So I'm glad to see that you also see the value of that. So with What Got You Here, What Got You There, for instance, in roles, let's say you're in a level role and you want to move into a next level role, or let's say you're a manager and you want to move into a director role, or you're a director and you want to be in an executive role. So the very skills, and this takes a lot of coaching sometimes because it's risky, the very skills that make you successful as a manager will hold you back as a director, because what's needed from you is different. So everyday activities are focused on monitoring work and assigning work and those kinds of things. That's a job of a manager, and it's very much needed. The job of a director is a different job, and it's around enabling the strategy of the company. You also have a foot into the visionary process and setting the vision, or at least determining how your team is going to be a part of that vision. And then an executive, the behaviors that make you a great director will definitely hold you back if those are the behaviors that you stick to in an executive role. Because as in an executive role, you really have to be setting the vision and setting the strategies, and in directors and acting the strategies. And so it's what got you here might not get you there. And not only that, it may hold you back from getting there. And there's another thing I want to talk about when we're talking about this, and it's this idea that Marshall Goldsmith coined, and it's called the Success Delusion. And you've known a lot of people who have suffered this, and maybe you have suffered this, I don't know. Here's the Success Delusion. Behave this way. Hey, I'm pretty successful. Therefore, I must be successful because I behave this way. And in actuality, you're successful in spite of the fact that you behave this way. But what it is the more successful we become, the more hype there is around us, the more visible that becomes, and the more pats on the back that we're giving, and the less direct feedback and feed forward we're giving on what could be done better in the future, the more we believe all that hype. So we keep doing what we're doing, even though it's minimizing our, it will ultimately, it's not sustainable. This success delusion will really bring us down. And so that is, you have to know when you need to pivot, when you need to change. And it feels really, really risky when you're changing something that's brought you the very success that you have, but now it's going to hold you back. And so if you're at a point in your career where you're happy where you are and you're not looking to move, guess what? You're still going to have to change. Just stay what you are, doing what you do, using the systems that you use and behaving as you do. The world is going to change around you. Look at what's happened in the last 6 months. What if we were all still doing, behaving, meeting, talking, interacting exactly as we always did back in February before suddenly, in March, the world changed. It pivoted. It changed. So you have to have that ability to change with it. So there's risk. There's tremendous risk in not pivoting. So the risk of not pivoting is the world's changing around you, and now you're no longer a part of the world that it is working. So knowing when to pivot, knowing when to take the risk, knowing when it's a risk not to pivot are a big part of success of individuals and teams and organizations pivoting.
So Lynn, how might somebody, because it can be confusing sometimes, so what are some tools or what are some resources that leaders can use or acquire to help them with that pivot?
To help them with the pivot? Well, I'd say, first of all, I've already mentioned, read the book. what got you here won't get you there. It's a very interesting read. It will go very fast because you will be interested. In that book, Marshall Goldsmith also lists out the 20 things that you need to stop doing. You're going to find at least 2 or 3 of those that you say, hey, that's me. And that's a pivot point. When you identify that I have an excessive need to be me, or I start sentences, or I use how, or I mean, but, or however, which negates everything I just said. Or, there's 20 different things. Those provide pivot points. Read the book. Look it up. It's free online. Go to marshallgoldsmith.com. He gives away stuff for free. He has the 20 behaviors right there. Those are going to hold you back. It's the 20 behaviors that hold you back. You can also think of it as pivot points. You're going to pick 1 or 2. You can't work on multiple things at once. And by the way, you're a successful person or you wouldn't be here. So you don't need to work on all 20 of them. You wouldn't be successful at all. But I promise you, there's 1 or 2, and there's probably one that you go, oh yeah, as I think about that now. So to get more information on that, you could contact Lori, or you could contact me, and we can help you through that process as well.
And in our expo booth, if you go to About Our Company, we actually have a leadership excellence survey that you can take. It takes less than 5 minutes, and it will actually narrow down those 20 behaviors, and it will help you define those areas of deltas where you may need to probably spend some practice time and possible coaching around. And so go ahead, it's out there, the link, it's complimentary, and it is based on Marshall Goldsmith's work as well. So please take advantage of that tool that's out there in the conference today. It's you can also find it on our website. So it's either in our exhibition booth or on our website as well, which is posted behind both Lynn and I today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about confidence. Confidence, we have it and we lack it. If you're human, it's both. And so great leaders must honestly be vulnerable and accept the gravity of the challenging situations. They exude realistic optimism by communicating openly and honestly. And Lynn earlier in her presentation today in the seminar talked about vulnerable and vulnerable trust. And when leaders model this, when leaders lead with vulnerable trust, their organizations, their culture begins to develop a norm and form around that. And leaders are humble. They're humble enough to admit that they don't have all the answers. And I don't know a leader out there anywhere in this world, because Lynn and I work all around the globe. We work here in our region, and there is not a leader out there that can do it all. There is no one that's perfect. And so they've got to be humble enough to admit that they don't have all those answers. And doing so provides them credibility. And they really truly rely on those experts that they've brought into the organization that align to the values, that align to the needs of the expertise and those talents and skills. And that grouping gives them the ability to have that credibility and share an optimistic and authentic vision that is both reassuring and realistic. And through self-assessment, through self-mastery, through the ability to really define those behaviors like we were talking about that hold you back, you begin the transformative process of gaining self-worth, which includes that confidence that you carry with you each and every day when you walk into your office, whether it be remote and virtual, or whether it be in a physical brick and mortar these days. So definitely you want to make sure to continue to challenge yourself, like we were talking about, that continuous learning and giving yourself the ability to have that curiosity and that state of support throughout for yourself and also with your teams and your organizations. And do your leaders have the confidence to answer questions honestly, even when they don't have all the answers? And again, I'm going to refer back to Lynn, and you're going to be able to find some of this material on our LinkedIn page, on our company page, as well as on our website. But we talk a lot about, in our blogs, we talk a lot about building cohesive teams and that honesty that is needed when leaders don't have all the answers, and coming together collectively to get those results. And another question you might think about is, are your leaders outwardly optimistic? So back to Lynn's talking about assuming positive intent, about the organization's ability to navigate difficult times. Do they have the camaraderie? Do they have that personal sense of pride, that organizational pride that carries the culture, that carries the vision, that carries the mission inwardly and outwardly in their daily efforts, through their energy and through their activity that they complete each and every day? So those are things to think about when it comes to confidence. Confidence is complex, and it does require you to spend time on yourself. It requires you to develop your members of your team, and it requires you as a leader to nurture your culture in the realm of that vision. And then I'm also going to mention mental toughness. And everybody wants to, have that resiliency and be able to persevere those times. And we talked about maximizing excellence and the importance of that. And bottom line, great leaders have grit. They have that mental toughness, the perseverance, and that focus. They approach disruption and challenges with that assumption of positive intent, with that focus of knowing that they're aligning those individuals to that vision, and they're going to maximize their abilities. And this means also delegating tasks and seeing that task through to completion, and maintaining high performance standards, holding people accountable. And that sometimes is not easy, but it's necessary and most vital for success and for maximizing excellence in your organization and with your people. And it's important for leaders in this mental toughness, and you can't fake this. This is either real or it's not. And if you're faking it, everybody knows it. You don't even have to say a word. But you definitely need to have a calmness and that confidence and that optimism in the midst of all this chaos and disruption. And as a role model of these leadership characteristics, the best leaders lift collective resilience and tenacity of the entire organization. And when you have that, you have collaboration, you have cohesiveness, you have productive dialogues and conflicts and debates. You have commitment. And not the kind of commitment where in a meeting they say, oh, count me in, and then they leave the doorway and walk down the hallway and they're like, oh, that's not going to work. You have commitment. When they leave the doorway, they're like, okay, I got to go figure this out. Hey, you, let's get together and let's put our heads together and figure this out. Or they, I got to go do the research and write some things down and get back to you. So remember and think about, do your leaders maintain focus and energy even when momentum is at its lowest or lacking in your organization? Do your leaders maintain high standards regardless of the pressure the individual and the organization are under? Regardless if your colleague is your best friend and they have a different opinion? Regardless if your supplier or your partner has a different opinion? Regardless if your investor is telling you certain things? Again, getting back to those productive conflict and that communication and alignment and keeping true to that is going to be important. And do your leaders inspire confidence in themselves and in the organization? Are they curious? Are they continuous learners? And one of the things I want to recommend to all of you, and Lynn knows this, I'm a bookie, I'm a nerdy. And I'm a wannabe astronaut, and I'm all those crazy weird things, but I truly believe in the power of reading. And I truly believe that when you read and you journal what you read, it resonates. And it, for some reason, it just creates a very strong foundation for you to pull from when you have predicaments, when you have situations that challenge you, when this brain up here gets in that fight, flight, or freeze mode, and we begin to distort things and see things through filters. When we have opinions that might not necessarily be a good fit, and we have forgotten to challenge that in the process of cognition. So I just want to share with you that these 10 areas truly during disruptive times provide you a foundation to really lead and lead well and lead strong and be able to make the influence and provide the motivation that you're seeking to do every day. And remember, we're always seeking that top of the pyramid, that self-transcendence. And it's not about being happy, because happiness is in moments. It's about being fulfilled and having contentment. And that comes from having our voice heard, being safe, that good old Maslow, right, chart that we know so well. So staying true and aligning our personal values with the organizational values and staying true to that each and every day. And again, the book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, the book Triggers, there are some great daily tools in there. You can also find those on our website. Lynn and I both are Marshall Goldsmith coaches, and we do coach stakeholder-centered coaching as well. We also customize our coaching practices for individuals that are looking to grow, to maximize their excellence and their success. So with that, Lynn, is there anything else you want to add to wrapping this up, and then we can put it out there again to all the panel or all the attendees to see what questions they have?
I would say, because the title of this was Leading Through Disruption, leaders have never been tested as they are today. And we recognize that leaders exist throughout our organizations, and they're not just people with a leadership title. So probably all of you here with us right now are leaders in some way. And what we do really, really matters, and how we inspire confidence, having confidence in ourselves, having confidence in our companies, having confidence in that bright and positive future, in that vision that we have set, causes others to have confidence in us. It causes employees that you might want to attract to come work for you. It causes them to stay. It causes customers to select you. All of those things lead to business success. It's going to be really interesting as we continue where we are and ultimately transition to a different type of what's going on in the world, to see who the winners are, what companies, what leaders, what people have really excelled and won throughout this. We're not able to adapt and lead through the disruption that is happening.
So I know I'm going to be vulnerable here. How about that? So I was typing and I apologize. I forgot to mute. So I apologize for that. So let me ask, is there anybody out there in this panel and out there in this roundtable that has any questions? And by the way, Andrea, yes, Brene Brown's book, The Power of Vulnerability, is also great reads. And vulnerability is truly about the cognitive process. And you've got to begin to understand those triggers. And when we mention Marshall Goldsmith with triggers, the more you understand those triggers that you have, those self-triggers, and again, it dives deep into your core values. It dives deep into those distortions. And by the way, there are hundreds of distortions. And until you truly discover that, that's when you pivot. That's when you begin to see the world as abundant. And you open yourself to the opportunity that's truly in front of you. No longer are you siloed. No longer are you stuck. So it helps you with that behavioral shift. And understanding that really allows you to get away from emotion and feelings, and it focuses you in on that vision. And it gives you the ability to apply all of those things that you have within you already to make you successful. And it's not easy. This delivery of this is easy, but the actual action for leaders, for people to go in and do that hard self-transformative work is not easy. And I don't recommend to try to do it alone. And if you do, it's going to take you a lot longer. If you have put a team or an individual like a coach or a team of people around you that are working on it collectively together, so group and team coaching, you have an ability to constantly be able to check in and validate that. Another thing that I recommend is Lynn and I both are authorized partners and highly certified in a number of assessment programs. And we intentionally have a variety of them because we customize our approaches to the needs of our clients and their organizations. But doing assessments will truly help you gather the data and some of the facts for you to begin that transformative journey and to help you pivot.
And Lori, I would add one more if I was just to sum it all up.
Yes.
I'd say it would replace one mantra with another. So we've all always heard, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten.
Yeah.
It's not true anymore. The actual, let's replace it with what got you here won't get you there. You know, there's changes happen. Changes always happen. It's a change on steroids. So if we always do what we've always done, we will fail. And what got us here won't get us there.
Lovely. And so Alexandra and Andrea and Sierra and Gloria and Greg and Olivia and Vincent and all the others, is there any last minute comments or insights or questions that you might have for this roundtable today? We'd love to hear from you. Feedback. How about some feedback or feed forward? Did we not cover something that we might be able to bring to the table for you?
Looks like Andrea's raising her hand. And let me see if I can get her. All right, Andrea, you're live. Let me unmute you. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, actually, it was just more of a comment when you said feedback, especially. It just prompted something in my mind. But, after reading that book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, and the top 20 that Marshall Goldsmith mentions, there definitely was 2 or 3 in there. One I already knew I was working on, but the other 2, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm still doing this and no one's told me. And about asking feedback, but there's so many different ways to ask for feedback. And, you can sit there all day long and ask your team, is there anything I could do differently? Or, how do you think that we handled that situation? Is there something we could have done differently together to work, more as a cohesive team? But I think being even more specific, like, is there something I do that drives you nuts? Mm-hmm. And that's, I kind of lean more towards that direction from reading Brené Brown's book, The Power of Vulnerability. It's not something I ever would have said. I would have thought I have to be entirely professional and I can't just be down to earth sometimes. But no kidding, is there something that I do that drives you nuts? And I think that one of those, well, maybe probably 2 of those, the top 20, they would have said that to me. And I would have probably felt horrible, but just smiled and said, thank you for letting me know. But I think just asking your peers, other members of leadership, even friends, people in the community for feedback and just being specific about areas you want to work on is super helpful. Mm-hmm. And it will help you grow as a leader within the community and your own professional life as well.
That's very true. And let's think about now, in the past, we do want to be professional. Leaders need to be professional. There's a certain level of professionalism that has to happen. How many of you have seen your leader's bedroom? What kind of pets they have, what they look like? You've met their spouse, their children. See, now all this is happening on Zoom, right? So you leaders and all of our team members have become more human. And guess what? That genie doesn't go back in the box. So authenticity is here to stay. And it's just as you were as you were alluding to, being that authentic leader. I've always been one about being polished and being professional, and it's very important. But it's also important to be humble and hungry and knowledgeable and disciplined and have humility and to be real and to be authentic
And courageous and
and
curious.
courageous. Yeah,
Yes.
curious and courageous and all of those things.
Those
And not only is it nice, now it's necessity, because we are trying to lead through disruption.
Yeah.
All right, guys. If there aren't any more questions, Lynn and Lori, we want to thank you so much. I got a lot of great information out of this discussion. I just got a promotion. I don't know if you all know, but now VP of Sales. So truly leading in a different way. And so I'm taking away a lot of great tips from you all today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Yep.
welcome.
Reach out.
Thank you.
Will
Thank you.
do. So y'all be sure to visit the Harris Whitesell booth either later today. Reach out to them if you want to ask them a question individually. You can go there and talk to them at that time. And please tune in tomorrow as well. We're going to kick off the second day of the conference at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning with our keynote speakers. We've got Senator Tom Tillis and opponent Cal Cunningham kicking off day 2 of the Wilmington Biz Conference and Expo. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.